Thank you. Oops. We have a quorum, so we will get started here. I call to order the February 9th, 2026 meeting of the Electricity as Vehicle Fuel Working Group. A quorum is present, so we'll get started. First off, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from our previous meeting? Are there any changes or updates?
No,
Is-
Madam Chair, but I move the minutes.
All right, the minutes have been moved to be approved. All in favor, say aye. All
Aye.
opposed, say nay. Oh, did somebody say nay online? Oh,
Nope.
okay. Motion approved. The motion prevails and the minutes are approved. All right, well, welcome everybody. Congratulations. You have made it to the last meeting of the EV as Electricity as a Vehicle Fuel Working Group. I'm really pleased with the work we've done. I've learned a ton, as I'm quite certain most of you have as well. So I think we've done a great job, and I really appreciate everybody who's taken time to present, to write recommendations, to help me understand issues. So I'm really grateful for that. There is a wide array of things that can come out of this working group, but today what we will do is finish with a few of the last recommendations that we did not. We will finish by taking a roll call vote on the last recommendations that we were not able to get to. And then as members, you were provided with a draft report to the legislature. We will talk about those recommendations in the way that we covered them in the draft report. We will agree or disagree. We'll see. Presumptively, we will agree to accept the recommendations from today. And I hope will give permission to our support staff to include those into the final working group report. So that's what I know we'll accomplish today. So before we start, does anybody have any questions about the process? We have many people online. And so remember, for both of those participants who are in person or online, when you speak, if you could introduce yourself and just remind us of the organization that you are representing. So not hearing any concerns? All right, then we're going to get going again because we have just a few recommendations left to talk about. Danny Gillis has grouped these into themes or into kind of topics, which I think will be helpful. So I'm going to read 3 recommendations relating to the surcharge itself. And we can take them as a group or we can break them apart. I will look for feedback from the working group. But to get started, these have to do with the electric vehicle surcharge. All right, so Amanda Durr and Anjali Baines recommended that we replace the MSRP-based EV surcharge with a flat fee. So that's our first recommendation. Secondly, Ms. Berninger, Carolyn Berninger recommended that we reduce the electric vehicle surcharge to ensure that electrical vehicle drivers are not required to contribute more to transportation funding than drivers of similar gas-powered vehicles. And then lastly, Margaret Donahoe recommended that Minnesota should charge an annual EV fee of at least $200 per year to compensate for loss of revenue from the fuel tax, noting that the average vehicle in the fleet today pays about $234 per year in fuel taxes, with 80% of EV charging occurring at home. This would ensure that the state does not lose revenue needed for road maintenance. So those are the 3 recommendations. Again, the first is recommending that we replace the MSRP-based EV surcharge that is paid when someone renews their license fee with a flat fee and not this is my editorial comment, not base it on the value of the vehicle itself. The second one is to reduce the EV surcharge to ensure that EV drivers are not facing an undue burden or unfair assessment. And then third, Minnesota should charge an annual EV fee at least $200 to compensate for loss in revenue. So I'll open the floor up to any feedback. Specifically, I would welcome feedback from Amanda, Anjali, Carolyn, or Margaret, but I certainly would welcome feedback from anyone. Amanda Doer?
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. Amanda Doer, Minnesota Auto Dealers Association. As someone who made one of the recommendations, maybe to streamline things, I would support the recommendation made by Margaret Donahoe if we could collectively agree, because I didn't put a dollar amount in mind, but the $200 was what was discussed throughout the legislative session and seemed to have pretty broad buy-in. I know my members don't have a problem with that figure. So if the recommendation would be the flat fee of $200 to relatively approximate what was paid into the gas tax, that's something at least I could support.
Thank you, Amanda. Any feedback? Anjali Baines, I'll introduce you.
Thank you, Chair. So I also am supportive of simplifying the MSRP surcharge, but on the other side, I think I would propose, and I'm curious if Carolyn Berninger from Drive Electric Minnesota would agree, changing it to $100, especially if we're keeping all the other tax, like the public charging tax in place. I think that's the concern of having multiple taxes. And my first preference is the mileage-based user fee, but a lower flat tax of $100 would be okay too. Thank you.
All right, noted. Is Carolyn online?
Yes.
Carolyn, do you have any feedback?
I do, thank you. So similar to my colleagues, I do think that simplifying the MSRP based fee would be preferable and makes sense and is a lot easier for folks to understand. So I would certainly support that and moving towards more of a flat fee. I do think $200 does seem high, particularly if we do have a public charging tax and sort of other burdens in place. And also if we're looking at kind of comparing to newer gas vehicles, we know that they're getting more efficient each year. So I would really want to make sure that we are factoring that in, that over time, gas cars are going to be contributing less and less in gas tax. And so I just want to make sure we're not setting a really punitive EV fee based on sort of older gas vehicles. I don't know that I have a specific number that my members support. I would just want to make sure we are basing the math on sort of a forward-looking picture. And we do support rewarding fuel efficiency for electric vehicles, similar to how the gas tax rewards fuel efficiency for gas vehicles. And I would also finally agree with Anjali that we do feel that the mileage-based fee is a preferred option moving forward. But we have supported a lower flat fee in these interim years where we're sort of figuring that long-term option out.
Thank you. Thanks, Carolyn.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Oh, Representative Elkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just weigh in that, based on the calculations I've done, if we were going to do a flat rate, which I don't support because I think the charge a person pays should reflect how much driving they do. But given the typical mileage driven in an annual year by an EV owner, that if a flat fee was to be assessed, the figure somewhere in the range of about $125 would be the appropriate amount.
Noted. Keep in mind, we already did go through the recommendations and you saw the draft. So the road user charge is already in the draft report as a kind of a framework. And so we can have both of these at the same time. Or I'm sorry, we can have both of these side by side. Margaret Donahoe.
Thank you. Margaret Donahoe with the Transportation Alliance. I would just add a couple things. The fuel tax is indexed for inflation, so it will continue to increase for people with those vehicles. And again, I kind of go back to, the number of people driving all electric vehicles is still pretty small, just like the number of people driving, cars that don't get very good gas mileage is pretty small. People make choices about what they purchase. And again, when you look at what's going to help drive EV sales, a lot more impact from the price and from range anxiety than whatever surcharge any state has charged. And again, we heard from groups talking about what's happening nationally. A lot of states go with a flat annual fee because it's much more efficient to collect. And most states are moving to the $150 to $200 per year range. And we don't hear that that's a big burden for people who are buying electric vehicles.
Thank you. Is there any other feedback? Anybody online want to talk about this one? Oh, Anjali?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Anjali Baines with Fresh Energy. To Margaret Donahue's point, I also want to point out, however, that even if states are going towards a higher, more punitive fee, not every state is pursuing a public charging tax at the same time. I know there's a handful of states, but just want to highlight that our concern is the multiple taxes being imposed on EVs. So having a lower flat fee while maintaining other charging taxes would be more fair. And there's been calculations that we've submitted that shows the layering on of all those taxes as well. Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else? So I'm going to use my prerogative as the chair to say, let's first take the roll call on the first recommendation that we replace the MSRP-based EV surcharge with the flat fee. And then as an aside, and I welcome your feedback on this, I think I would recommend that we include in the report that the flat fee discussed by the working group ranged from $100 to $200. It was also noted that gas taxes index, so perhaps we may want to index this flat fee somehow. But I think it's more appropriate. I would recommend it's more appropriate that we talk about the fee itself, the amount, and then how we change it over time, including possibly eliminating it eventually. But for now, I would like to move forward. What are the words? Is there a motion? Well, I guess I can't. Can I move it forward? Okay, I'm going to move forward the recommendation that we replace the MSRP-based EV surcharge with a flat fee. And Austin will take the roll.
Madam
Oh,
Chair.
go ahead. Yep,
I'm sorry.
Representative Murphy?
Yes, thank you. The only thing that I have issue with the way you summed it up is you said up to 200, when it actually said, we were looking at 200 or greater with Margaret Donahue's. And so that would be a little bit captive there, and that would change my thoughts on it for sure. So.
Yeah, Representative Murphy, you're exactly correct. So let's just say here on record that the working group discussed the amount of the annual standard fee, indicating it could range from 100 to the originally proposed 250, and we also discussed indexing it. How does that sound, Representative Murphy?
Yeah, I think that sounds better. I mean, I think the basic part is to leave the other side open-ended. It can start at 100,
Okay.
but definitely it's it's considered, and there's no determination of the number.
Okay. All right. So the motion on the floor is just to move to a flat fee. And again, Austin will take the roll. Thank you, Representative Murphy, for your comments.
Thank you.
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Aye.
Vice Chair Elkins,
No.
Anjali Baines,
Yes.
Steve Berthel, Caroline Berninger,
Yes.
Margaret Donahoe,
Yes.
Amanda Dewar,
Yes.
Justin Emmerich,
Yes.
Gary Hansen,
Yes.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe, Tony Qualis,
Pass.
Nick Lardno, Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Emily Murray,
Yes.
James Pearson,
Yes.
John Pollard,
Yes.
Eric Rudine,
Pass.
John Thorson,
Yes.
Aurora Vatrin,
Yes.
Pang Zhang,
Pass.
Laura Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, so 14 ayes and 1 no and 3 abstain. So that will be indicated in the final report. Remember, today, I just want to remind everyone what I said earlier. You did see the draft working report at the end of the meeting after we go through all the recommendations, of which there are not many left. We will empower staff to incorporate our actions from today, similar to how they were incorporated in the draft report that you already saw. So this will allow us to meet our deadline as required by the statute. Okay. The next two I'm going to talk about independently. They have to do with EV marketing. And the first one is something that was recommended by Margaret Donahoe and me. Minnesota should provide tax benefits and credits to help bring down initial purchase price of electric vehicles. Again, remember, this is just a recommendation. Doesn't mean that we are suddenly empowered to pass the law. Dang. But anyway, does anybody have any comment on this? Again, Minnesota should provide tax benefits and or credits to help bring down initial purchase price of electric vehicles. All right, I will move that this recommendation be adopted. Austin, will you take the roll?
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Yes.
Vice Chair Elkins,
Yes.
Anjali Baines,
Yes.
Steve Berthel, Caroline Berninger,
Yes.
Margaret Donahoe,
Yes.
Amanda Dewar,
Yes.
Justin Emmerich,
Yes.
Gary Hansen,
Yes.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe, Tony Qualis,
Pass.
Nick Lardno, Representative Murphy,
No.
Emily Murray,
Yes.
James Pearson,
Pass.
John Pollard,
Yes.
Eric Rudine,
Pass.
John Thorson,
Yes.
Aurora Vatrin,
Yes.
Pang Zhang,
Pass.
Laura Ziegler,
Yes. A word of warning to Justin Emmerich. I'm going to ask you to describe something in a few minutes. So this is your warning to pay attention. By the way, Justin's a friend of mine, so just don't want him to be caught off guard. All right, looks like we have 12 ayes, 1 no, and 4 abstain. So this that will be so noted in the report. The next one was submitted by Justin Emmerich, and it reads, Minnesota should apply a fuel tax only to EV chargers that meet a certain utilization rate benchmark, or just have an outright delay, I assume, of imposing the fuel tax. Not sure until 2035. The revenue collected is insignificant compared to the damage done to the market, and we have yet to see strong EV out of state traffic. So Justin, I think I understand what you mean here, but could you take a few minutes to explain your intent?
Yes, absolutely. So currently we don't have critical saturation in the state for EVs, and we can assume that surrounding states where we'll see a lot of traffic coming through the state wouldn't be enough to generate any significant amount of revenue from the uh, fuel tax at charging stations. Therefore, that would most likely be payments by Minnesotans who are going to be fueling that, while the majority of the fuel tax that they're replacing is coming from the tabs. So instead, by creating a benchmark of saying, hey, until we reach 25% saturation in the state of our total fleet, at that point, we can apply the fuel tax. Or you could outright delay it just so we don't disincentivize the charging market. I think being able to have charging infrastructure across the entire state is important. And if we have the fuel tax in place, we're just telling individual businesses who want to come to the state and invest in our state that it's going to be too difficult for them.
Okay. And I think in fairness, Angeline Baines recommended something similar, and maybe even Carolyn, that there be a benchmark before we start applying the tax. Did you want to offer up anything there?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think.
So this is Angeline Baines. That's okay.
Angeline Baines, Fresh Energy. I like this approach as well, the utilization rate of chargers. That is another way to basically capture how many EVs are actually on the road and using public chargers. And we would also support a delay until 2035 as well. So both these proposals are supported by Fresh Energy.
Go ahead, Jim Pearson.
Madam Chair, thank you. I just have a question. When the bill was passed back in special session, was there a revenue note done on the 5 cent? Can you remind me of that?
Danny, do you remember?
I believe there was a revenue note commit or on a standalone bill during the regular session, and I can find that and send it to you.
Okay.
That one didn't pass, right, Danny?
It didn't pass as a standalone bill, but it got added into that special session bill. But the provision, we're referring to the excise tax at public charging stations. I believe that item did have a revenue note completed on it during the regular session. It was a standalone bill from Senator Johnson Stewart.
Oh, okay. And then I remember at one of our previous working group meetings, we were touching on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just blanking on what the number was. And I'm just curious, as we think about delays or
Mm-hmm.
utilization rates and things like that, it would be great if somebody could remind me of how much revenue we're talking that we would be potentially pushing off or delaying or some other.
Okay, I think Danny is looking into that right
Thank you.
now. Anybody, I would vote, am I allowed to give my opinion? I am, right? Okay. I would recommend against this. I understand the idea here that it is, we've heard from several testifiers and states that have already been collecting taxes that in fact it's sometimes even a losing proposition. It costs more to collect the tax than actually to the revenue generated. And so I understand that that's an issue, and that until we get a significant body of drivers driving electric vehicles, this may be a small amount of revenue. My concern is that we wait and we don't have the processes. We've learned that this is going to take quite a bit on the collection side. We've heard from Quick Trip that they're gearing up. They already have experience in Wisconsin. I worry that we're going to lose revenue. To be sure, any revenue is revenue. But I also worry that we're going to lose valuable time in collection. And then when we get to the critical mass, then granted, we'll have revenue at that point. But I worry that if we're not collecting revenue in 2027, we're not preparing as we should be. Who else has feedback while we wait for Danny to get those numbers? Anybody online? Can we just say that it is, I would agree that it is, well, I'm not even going to say insignificant because we don't know what that number is. So I think we'll just wait a few minutes. Margaret?
Yeah, Margaret Donahoe with the Transportation Alliance. To me, it seems a little vague, whatever this threshold is. I don't know. And I'm not sure what goal this is accomplishing because again, 10 states have a similar charge at charging stations. And it's not a big barrier. We're talking about, a few dollars on a charge, just like it's $4 on average to pay the gas tax when you fuel up. So I think it seems like a lot of complication for something that I'm not sure why, other than, initially it's not going to generate a ton of revenue, but every bit of revenue we can get for our roads is helpful.
Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. Senator Howe is not here, but I remember his words and I would agree that we have the ability to tax fuel, and this certainly is fuel. So I think even based on principle, taxing this electricity as a fuel, and even if we do it via proxy by the surcharge, I think it's important to note that the fuel to the electric vehicles is something that is a vehicle for us to get revenue from. It looks like, I don't know that Danny is getting this number, so let's just move ahead.
If
Go
I may,
ahead.
Madam Chair.
Certainly.
John Thorson with LiUNA.
Oh, hi, John. Okay.
My recollection is the revenue estimate on this was relatively small. I want to say the first year it was about $9 million. And in the out years, it might have gotten into the 20 or so million dollars. But to follow up on your point and channeling Senator Howe, the collection, having changed the statute to treat electricity as a vehicle fuel, this is the beginning of turning that into practice. And the idea was to start with a small beachhead and have opportunities to adjust as technology allows.
Thank you, John.
Madam Chair,
Eric.
I'd like to make a comment too, if I could.
So, Representative Murphy and then Eric Rudin.
I'm sorry.
ahead,
Thank you, Madam
Representative.
Chair. My only my comment here too is that we're under an obligation and fairness too to Minnesota taxpayers, and so the obligation here is in our roads, and so that's why I think it's important that we've been tasked with this mission to make sure that happens, and so this would be delaying that task. So I would be in favor of your thoughts and Senator Howe's in that this is our obligation now. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative. Eric Rudin.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I think I found the revenue estimate, so maybe that's what Danny also found, but it looks like it was estimated at 600,000 in FY26, 1.2 million in FY27, 1.7 million in FY28, and 2.4 million in FY29.
Is that what you found,
And
Danny?
I'll just
Gillis?
comment that I think is a slightly different version of the proposal than what was ended up being passed into law. So I'm looking at the transportation detailed spreadsheet agreement that's available, I think in multiple places, but including on the Senate Council Research and Fiscal Analysis website. That is the final agreement that Transportation Conferees signed off on in the time leading up to special session. And that booked revenue of 1.6 million in FY28 and 2.4 million in FY29 from the excise tax proposal. Nothing before then because of the effective date that was agreed to. And so the revenue note was on a slightly different version. These were the numbers that Transportation Conferees agreed to in the lead up to special session.
Okay. Any other feedback or comments on this? I will offer up as a member of the bonding committee, every $1 million is a lot of money. And I'm simply not prepared to give up 1.7 million, 2.4 million more than 2.4 million, more than 2.4 million, more than whatever, you get the point. So I'm going to be voting against this one, but I appreciate the feedback. Go ahead, Amanda Doer.
This is just a question. Was there a fiscal note also for the expenditures for collecting these taxes included in there?
Danny Gillis?
So the fiscal note, and I think the one that Eric may have been looking at was for Senate File 2092. And so that fiscal note's available online. There was an estimate included in there of the cost to collect the tax.
Do you have it?
So yeah,
Oh, we don't have it. Sorry.
not exactly at my fingertips. And again, that would have, give me a moment.
Good point, Amanda.
But
Here-
to answer your question, Amanda, I think for the numbers that I read off from the spreadsheet that would have incorporated, hang on.
Danny's looking up the fiscal note for cost associated.
I believe the fiscal note for Senate File 2092 during regular session estimated about costs essentially being 0.5 of an FTE at the Department of Revenue to administer the excise tax.
All right. So 0.5 of an FTE, I'll just guess at about $100,000 perhaps. Okay, I've lost track. I think I'm going to move. Can I see it again? Danny's going to let me read this. I'm going to move Justin Emmerich's motion that Minnesota should apply a fuel tax only to EV chargers that meet a defined utilization rate benchmark, or just have an outright delay until 2035. So basically, right now, we're taking a roll on whether we should delay implementation of the fuel tax until there is a benchmark reached, or until the year 2035. Austin, will you please take the roll?
Chair Johnson Stewart,
No.
Vice Chair Elkins,
Yes.
Najali Baines,
Yes.
Steve Bertho, Caroline Berninger,
Yes.
Margaret Donahoe,
No.
Amanda Doer,
Yes.
Justin Emmerich,
Yes.
Gary Hansen,
No.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe, Tony Quillis,
Pass.
Nick Lardino, Representative Murphy,
No.
Emily Murray,
No.
James Pearson,
Yes.
John Pollard,
No.
Eric Rudine,
No.
John Thorson,
No.
Aurora Vatrin,
Yes.
Pong Zhang,
Pass.
Laura Ziegler,
No.
With 7 yes, 8 no's, 2 abstain, we will be recording those, that roll call into the report. Thank you. All right, the next one is something that was presented by John Pollard with an kind of supplemental recommendation by me, and it reads, the legislature should continue to pursue and eventually implement a system that distributes tax revenue obtained from residential EV charging to the highway tax fund, not the general tax fund. And then my supplemental recommendation that relates to this says the legislature should also grant fund grants for technological research into home chart. I don't know that these two are really related. Danny, do you think? Let's just take Pollard's first. The legislature should continue to pursue and eventually implement a system that distributes tax revenue obtained from residential EV charging to the highway tax fund and not the general tax fund. I've assumed that this was such, but perhaps we have to, isn't it automatically because it's a fuel?
Can you clarify your question, Senator?
Well, I thought we had already ascertained that because well, and I think this one is confusing too, because it says from residential EV charging. Oh, I get it. Okay, I'm sorry. It's Monday. I'm going to read it again because now I understand it. Sorry, Pollard. The legislature should continue to pursue and eventually implement a system that distributes tax revenue obtained from residential EV charging. So this relates to a recommendation that we continue to explore ways to tax residential charging and then allocate that tax to the highway tax fund and not the general tax fund. And then my supplement does apply in a way where it says the legislature should fund grants for technological research into home charging options that are low cost and can measure the electrical usage of the charging equipment. So again, I apologize for the confusion. Both of these together relate to residential charging. Pollard's relates to a recommendation that we continue to study and eventually implement a way to tax this. And mine relates to we should continue to conduct research in order to make this, in fact, something we can do. So John Pollard, do you have anything you want to add once I figured out what your recommendation was?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. John Pollard with the Building Trades. I was simply stating that, or trying to say, to express support that obviously fuel that is going into vehicles by Constitution is supposed to be dedicated to the Highway User Trust Distribution Fund. And simply because the technology is not there today does not mean that the technology might not be there sometime in the future. And so we should continue to pursue that for fairness and support of the system's sake. And then I would support your additional motion too.
Okay. Is there any comments or feedback on continuing to explore ways to tax home charging and funding the research to allow us to do so?
I think they should be separated, Madam Chair. The
Okay.
two, they're different enough.
All right. So heard Representative Murphy, Representative Elkins, do you have feedback?
No, I just would like to say, Madam Chair, that I'm not opposed to this in principle, but I just be realistic. This date is a long ways off. I mean,
Okay.
the Society of Automotive Engineers hasn't even set standards yet for the accuracy of in-meter charging systems. And they would have to go through an extended period of debating and adopting such a standard before the manufacturers would even start to rolling out compliant meters in the cars.
Representative Elkins, I think there's two, I will request some clarification. I think this relates to meters on the wall, not in the cars. Are we talking about the same thing?
Well, it could be either way.
Yeah, so you could, so there could be a meter in the car that, yeah, absolutely. I understand. Okay. Okay, well, given Representative Murphy's suggestion, I'm up for that. Is there any other feedback online or anyone else? Ruth?
Madam Chair, this is
Jeremy.
Jeremy Gustinson, standing
Yep.
in for John Houseladden.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that to this point, several other fuels over the course of time have been added to the statutory, to Mr. Pollard's point about the constitutional requirement that taxes be collected, think compressed natural gas and so forth. Those technologies have come around. The legislature and other working groups evaluated them and have come up with successful ways to tax those according to the Constitution.
Great. Any other feedback? Okay, Representative Murphy, I would welcome your feedback on this. I'm not moving it yet, but how about if this one reads, the legislature should continue to pursue, study, and eventually implement a system that distributes tax revenue or that collects tax revenue obtained from residential EV charging and distribute that revenue to the highway tax fund.
Yep,
So that
John Pollard's is fine by me, that the way that was originally stated, and I think your summary is very similar to what that is. I like that one. I wouldn't support the other. So yeah, so just to break them into two, but Pollard's, everything about it, the general fund, going to the highway fund instead of the general fund, that's definitely acceptable.
Okay, all right, I will so move John Pollard's recommendation that the legislature should continue to pursue and eventually implement a system that distributes tax revenue obtained from residential EV charging to the highway HUTDF and not the general tax fund. Austin, will you take the roll?
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Yes.
Vice Chair Elkins. Yes. Anjali Baines,
Pass.
Steve Berthel, Caroline Berninger,
Pass.
Margaret Donahoe,
Yes.
Amanda Dewar,
Yes.
Justin Emmerich,
Pass.
Gary Hansen,
Yes.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe, Tony Quillis,
Pass.
Nick Lardno, Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Emily Murray,
Yes.
James Pearson,
Pass.
John Pollard,
Yes.
Eric Radine,
Pass.
John Thorson,
Yes.
Aurora Vatrin,
Yes.
Hong Zhang,
Pass.
Laura Ziegler,
Yes.
With 11 ayes, 0 nays, and 7 abstaining, we will record that roll call in the report. I think given Representative Elkins' notes about standards, something I hadn't even thought about, I'm going to withdraw my recommendation. It's not that strong of a recommendation anyway. So we're going to move forward then to something that's been also recommended by Justin Emmerich, and it reads, the auto parts sales tax should be expanded to include electrical vehicle chargers and charging components. So this would be the charging equipment. Justin, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, just in a similar way where the auto part sales tax is dedicated, basically you would include EV charging infrastructure within that. So any sales tax collected would go to the same revenue fund as the auto part sales tax.
Got it. Any comments or feedback? Tony?
Madam Chair, Tony Quillis from Quick Trip, and maybe someone can refresh my memory. I think Mr. Radine, when we were talking about the federal grants that were available, I think level 3 charger is somewhere in the amount of $150,000 to $175,000 range would be my guess, maybe more.
Madam
Eric?
Chair, Eric
Mhm.
Radine Minot, that would be per port. So most of the ones we're installing in Minnesota have 4 ports. So the cost is actually more like, I think, 800,000 per installation.
But the sales taxes, help me remember, and is this installation taxed? Aren't we talking about the components themselves?
Madam Chair, I would defer to Department of Revenue on that one.
Yeah, I read this as saying electrical vehicle chargers and charging components. I think, Justin, if I could speak for you, you can interrupt if not. if I'm not accurate here, but a while ago, we dedicated auto parts to the sales tax to auto parts to the HUD-TDF. And so I think Justin is saying as auto parts are taxed and that revenue goes to the highway fund, so should these chargers and charging components. Is that correct, Justin?
Yes, that's correct.
Madam Chair, I was just trying to clarify if a retail establishment purchases a electric vehicle charger for $800,000 right now without a exemption for it, that money would normally go into the general fund that
Correct.
would direct it into the highway user fund.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know about numbers. I think that I don't know how that bid would parse out, but I would say for things that are normally taxed, that are already taxed as hard items, not labor, but as components, that instead of that tax revenue going to general fund, it would go to highway user tax fund. Any other comments on this one?
Madam Chair, can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure, Anjali Baines.
So what you were just saying there, I also want to make sure I understand it. So this wouldn't be adding additional tax, it'd just be shifting existing tax into the highway user tax distribution fund. Okay, thank you.
Correct. So in answer to Anjali Baines' question, this is not an additional tax. I believe Justin's intent is simply to change the destination for the tax revenue.
That's correct.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Representative Elkins.
A clarifying question as well. If a business is installing a charger, would sales tax be charged?
I don't know. Any tax experts? Commerce? Anybody? Bueller? You know I had to say it.
Representative Elkins, I'll again state that I am not a tax lawyer.
This is a
expert.
Department of Revenue question.
It is. Typically, sales tax is on the sort of the last sale for any good or service. So it's the if a convenience store buys a candy bar or a set of candy bars, that sale is not taxed because they're intending to resell them to the customer. So in this instance, if a entity was purchasing electric vehicle supply equipment, they're not going to resell the equipment. They might use it to sell electricity. But my understanding is typically that would mean that the sales tax would apply to the equipment purchase then, because it's the last intended sale of that equipment.
That makes sense.
Jim Pearson.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. So help me though, if I'm at a retail fueling location and I'm putting in a fast charger that we're talking about, and now after 2027, I'm going to be charging 5 cents to the consumer, am I paying the tax? I'm not the endpoint then.
So I think you're talking about two separate things. So I believe this proposal and Representative Elkins' question is about the electric vehicle supply equipment, where of course, which is obviously will be used to sell electrons, right? So you were under the bill passed in June of this year, you would pay the excise tax on the electrons sold as the consumer purchasing electricity from the electric vehicle supply equipment. That is, I think, considered a different product than the electric vehicle supply equipment itself. So whatever business is buying that equipment would pay a sales tax wherever that sales tax is directed to. Currently would be the general fund. They would pay sales tax on the equipment when they buy the equipment, and the consumer would pay the excise tax at the time that they purchase the electrons from the.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, so I will offer this one up as a motion. The auto parts sales tax should be expanded to include electrical vehicle chargers and charging components. Austin, will you take the roll?
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Yes.
Vice Chair Elkins,
Yes.
Anjali Baines,
Pass.
Steve Berthel, Caroline Berninger,
Pass.
Margaret Donahoe,
Yes.
Amanda Dewar,
Pass.
Justin Emmerich,
Yes.
Gary Hansen,
Yes.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe, Tony Quellis,
Pass.
Nick Lardno, Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Emily Murray,
Yes.
James Pearson,
Pass.
John Pollard,
Yes.
Eric Rudine,
Pass.
John Thorson,
Yes.
Aurora Vatrin,
Yes.
Peng Zhang,
Pass.
Laura Ziegler,
Yes. Well, Austin is noting that or telling that. Gary Hansen, I want you to know that I'm going to be calling on you shortly to talk about your recommendation for a portion of revenue from assessment of electric vehicles for use of Minnesota roadways should be dedicated to municipalities. So Gary, if you could just be prepared for me to ask you a question about that. All right, and this one, we had 11 pass, or I'm sorry, 11 aye, 0 nay, and 7 abstain. All right, we only have 2 left, so there's light at the end of the tunnel. This one reads, and it was, as I just noted 2 minutes ago, has to do with revenue distribution, and this one was presented by Gary Hansen. It reads, a portion of revenue from the assessment of electrical vehicles for use of Minnesota roadways, so a portion of the revenue should be dedicated to municipalities for construction and maintenance of roads and bridges within their jurisdiction. So we want to note that funding that comes out of the HUTDF already does distribute to construction and maintenance of municipal roads. And so Gary, I'm curious, what was your intent on this recommendation? Gary?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Gary Hansen, Eagan City Council member representing the League of Minnesota Cities. The league's interest is not so much in the means that revenue is generated, but rather the distribution of that funding, and just wanted to assure that there would be equitable distribution to cities that would continue. Local governments have jurisdiction over a substantial portion of roadways in the state and are experiencing significant construction and maintenance funding gaps. We know that city streets are an integral part of our network of roads supporting movement of people and goods. And so the league believes that an equitable portion of electric vehicle fees should be a source of revenue to help cities meet growing demands for street improvements and maintenance. So if there is a place for this recommendation in the report, we would appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gary. Any feedback or comments on this? Eric Rudine from MnDOT.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I guess I'm still not sure if the recommendation is just to continue the current share of funding with local governments, or is this to actually change how the funds are distributed and give a greater portion to cities?
Gary, did you hear Eric's question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And certainly we want to see continued funding, not suggesting how much that should be, simply saying an equitable share of that funding, whatever that might be.
Any comments? All right, then I will so move this. A portion of revenue from the assessment of electric vehicles for use of Minnesota roadways should be dedicated to municipalities for construction and maintenance of roads and bridges within their jurisdiction. So I certainly understand that while this may already be happening because the money comes out of the HUTDF, Gary's point is that he wants to make sure that we continue to fund city streets with this revenue. Austin, will you take the roll?
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Aye.
Vice Chair Elkins,
Aye.
Anjali Baines,
Pass.
I think we're done.
Steve Berthel, Caroline Berninger,
Pass.
Margaret Donahoe,
Pass.
Amanda Dewar,
Pass.
Justin Emmerich,
Pass.
Gary Hansen,
Yes.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe, Tony Quillis,
Pass.
Nick Lardno, Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Emily Murray,
Pass.
James Pearson,
Pass.
John Pollard,
Yes.
Eric Rudine,
Pass.
John Thorson,
Yes.
Aurora Vatrin,
Pass.
Peng Zhang,
Pass.
Laura Ziegler,
Pass.
All right, with six ayes, 0 nays, 12 abstain. We will note that roll call in the report. So that's it for our recommendations that we have to vote on. I would ask members to please find in their handouts the draft report to the Minnesota Legislature. This was sent to you last week, granted, with the short turnaround. We asked for review and feedback. I did take quite a bit of time to review it. I had a little bit of extra free time, I guess I would say. Anyway, hopefully you did have some time to take a look at it. And if you didn't, I would welcome that in the next day or two. We are under a pretty tight schedule to get this report finished. And so you may remember Austin at the meeting before today, I believe it was just last time, talked about the content and the structure of the report. So you'll see something I was confused about when I first read it, but then eventually figured out is this report will generally be available electronically. And so a link to all the minutes, all the presentations, all the committee or the working group materials will be available to anybody who accesses this. So I feel like that's a really good way for us to get the word out about our work. You'll see on page 9, so after all the committee meetings, minutes, and keep in mind, these are just summaries. People will be able to link through and read the actual minutes. So be aware of that. But on page 9 is a list of recommendations. And so I think what's really important is that I think given that it is 10 o'clock, I'm going to stop talking for 5 minutes and just it's okay if you didn't review the report, but I would like everybody to just take a look at how the recommendations are presented and know that the recommendations that we voted on today, we will be voting to empower the staff to summarize those in the same manner. So it is 10 o'clock. I am going to set a timer for 5 minutes, and I'm not going to talk for 5 minutes. I'm warning you guys. So I would like you to look at this, and after 5 minutes, we're going to converse about if we're comfortable with the way the recommendations have been presented. So timer start, 5 minutes. Take a look at the recommendations on page 9, 10, and 11. There's our timer. As promised, that was 5 minutes. And I realize it was only 5 minutes, but I also want to be respectful of people's time. Is there any feedback that you'd like to bring forward regarding how the recommendations were presented in the report?
Madam Chair, Tony Quillis from Quick Trip. And first of all, I want to thank Austin and DeMarco and Danny for
Mhm.
all their hard work in putting this together.
Thank you.
And you mentioned that in some of the meetings, there's going to be links, but will the group recommendations be included in there?
Good question. Austin?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. It will be. It's in several places under the meeting materials for today's meeting and last meeting.
Yeah, I just didn't know
Yeah.
if it was going to be in,
Yeah.
in the appendix, or will it be a link for people to click on? Because a meeting or two when we first got these, but probably
Yeah.
good for background for people to see those.
Right now, it's a link.
And then, Madam Chair, on page 9, under the
Mhm.
recommendations, the 5th one down where it talks about the legislature should clarify the definition of public charging stations
Mm-hmm.
that are available to the public and should consider a different term than public. And you and I and
Yeah.
Mr. Gillis have talked about trying to wordsmith something around that. But I want to mention that one in coordination with paragraph 3 on page 10, where it talks about expanding the application of electricity as a
Mm-hmm.
vehicle fuel tax to include level 2 and level 3, which we talked about, and then removing the requirement that only for-profit businesses are defined.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the one that I'm gonna work with you and staff on page 9, where it talks about any station where a fee is charged. So there's a fee being charged
Mm-hmm.
at a retail establishment. But as we talked about previously, there might not be a fee charged at a city, a county, or a state park. And so how that works with a nonprofit business, which we're gonna remove, but just trying to, I think there might be a slight wordsmithing there. And the one that catches my eye is where a fee is charged. Are we going to miss cities, counties, libraries where there is fuel, electric fuel being taken? Are we going to exempt them and not be able to capture that revenue that's coming in?
So do you, so I was following you until the very last phrase. So at charging stations like a library or like a public works or like a city hall, are there places, I'm just not aware, where EV chargers are available for free?
Maybe Representative Elkins can help us out
Yes,
here, but
I'm seeing yes.
wondering if, I'm a city, I'm a
Mhm.
resident of Woodbury, Minnesota. If I went to the Woodbury City Hall, is there a way for me to access it because I'm a Woodbury resident? Or at a library, is there a way to do it? And Representative Elkins might be able to help us out.
Madam Chair, I'm not sure, but I know that at Bloomington City Hall, there are chargers. I do not know what the, what arrangements need to be made to use them, but they appear to be available to the public as far as I can tell.
But am I missing something? If you don't charge I understand your perspective from Quick Trip. I understand that. You do charge a fee.
Yes.
And if you're right across the street from the public library where they don't charge a fee, if people have the time to wait behind all the cars waiting for free, it is obviously a disadvantage to your business. So I understand that. Is that, I don't drive an EV, so I'm asking the EV drivers, is that a thing? Are there a lot, Jim, I see you nodding your head. Are there places out there that let you charge for free? I would love your feedback.
Well, Madam Chair, it's my understanding level 2 chargers, when the person or entity putting them in, they make a decision to have a card reader to accept a fee, raises the capital cost of that investment. So
Okay.
some cities, municipalities, and others do the math and they just figure it's an incentive for people to drive an EV. So we'll give them that and thereby save the upfront capital cost of having to add that to our bill when we have it installed. So yes, there are
Okay.
municipalities and people will drive around. You don't have to be living in that community. You just have to know about it.
And I'm guessing there's software on phones and stuff that tell people where these chargers are.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to point that out, and I'll work with staff and yourself and Representative Elkins to see if there's a way to just wordsmith that.
I understand, Tony.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Representative.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I know of businesses too that just apply that as a benefit to their employees, so they wouldn't be captured under that fuel either. So they just, like's already been said, but I do know of businesses that don't charge and have chargers for their employees.
Okay. So noted. Any other feedback? And I was remiss. I should have also thanked profusely Austin and Danny and DeMarco for the work they did to put the report together and for all the work you've done to keep this working group moving efficiently and as required. So thank you very much. Any other feedback? Amber. I'm sorry, Amanda.
No, that's all right. I'm gonna do our auto dealers. I'm just it looks like there might be some text missing at the very bottom of the page. It says under member input, it says the result of the vote was, and then there's nothing.
Yeah, I noted that too.
I think we were discussing a few different ways of putting that in, so we'll make sure to clarify that and get that correct.
And I think that's where to Tony's question, I think that's where the votes are going to be indicated and linked to. Eric Rudin.
Madam Chair, Eric Redeem, Mandat. I'm wondering if there's just a typo on page 10, the third paragraph, that last sentence. It says, so that the excise tax does not apply at some retail charging stations and not others.
Oh, so it does not apply at some retail charging station and does at others? Is that what
Right,
you?
or, yeah, it does apply at some and not others.
And does apply to others. Good catch. Okay. How does everybody feel about the way the recommendations are presented? Anjali?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Anjali Baines, Fresh Energy. I am confused by the use of the word not adopted under one of the recommendations. I assume had more nays than ayes. And I thought when we were discussing how this report would look like, we would have the recommendations and have a sense of the votes, but we wouldn't necessarily call one or another recommendation adopted or not. Is that still the case, or was there an effort to make like a certain recommendations adopted in a final package?
Good question. Danny, do you have feedback?
I guess I would respond that I'm certainly open to suggestions for the best way to reflect that in the report. I think that one did receive more nays than ayes, and so suggestions for the best way to reflect that in the voting. I think it gets a little bit cluttered if it's the full vote report readout under every single recommendation. And so I was trying to present information in a way that was legible, that reflected all the votes that were taken and balance all of those things, but open to suggestions about the best way to accomplish that.
Great, thank you. I actually do support just keeping, I think we have a list of the actual votes somewhere else, but just have a, this many yeses, this many no's, this many abstains, just an extra line as an indent under each of these recommendations. I understand your point about not wanting to be visibly cluttered, but I think with some formatting, you could have the recommendations understood and the votes understood without kind of resorting to this categorization that I think doesn't quite capture what the intent of our votes or our discussion was from this group. That's okay. Thank you.
How about a word smithing where it could say proposed recommendations not favored by a majority? How does that sound? I see some nodding. Austin and Danny, what's your thought about that? John Thorson, you have some feedback?
Not to this question.
Okay, then I just put you on hold for a few minutes. So how about proposed recommendations not favored by a majority? Anybody have strong aversion to that? Amanda?
Amanda Dewar. The only thing is I don't have necessarily a strong aversion to that, but I think there's a lot of these where more members abstained than voted. So it kind of tilts the scale a little bit more on this recommendation when there's others that in theory may have gotten more aye votes, but the abstentions are larger. So I just don't want to necessarily. So I kind of support like under each one, like just putting the votes like, and I don't have an issue with calling this one out as not adopted. It wasn't adopted, but I just think to provide a similar picture to the votes for each one, given there are some that had a lot of abstentions.
That is in fact true. Danny or Austin, do you have anything in response to that?
The only thing I'd add is you'll notice that some of the recommendations had a footnote, and that was sort of a way of trying to indicate which ones I would say were adopted with the benefit of a number of abstentions. And under both Mason's and Roberts rules would be considered votes passed. So that was a way to try to indicate which ones those are. I think you're just suggesting a different way to do that, which is completely fine and no issue for me there. So,
Margaret Donahoe.
Thank you, Margaret Donahoe with the Transportation Alliance. I do think it's important to at least put them in order by which ones received the most aye votes.
Oh, that's a good idea.
At a glance, people can kind of see which ones had the most support. And then you could kind of go down the list to the ones that had the least support. So at least as a group, we're kind of saying something.
Good input. Any other feedback? Anybody online? Oh, John Thorson, what did you want to offer up?
Actually, Madam Chair, now I do have a comment on this,
Okay.
this topic. I appreciated the sort of bucketing of recommendations in the implementation via different methods and other, and then maybe ranking within those buckets.
Okay. Noted. That's
And
good
then,
feedback.
I had raised my hand earlier to jump off of Mr. Quillis's discussion. When we did pass this, I had also mentioned that the term public versus private had some confusion, and it was I think the word public and private had different treatment in different parts of statute, whether it was in tax statute or in commerce, and that they're probably it would be good to have some housekeeping that align public and private in the context of the revenue collection, as it's going to be some more plain language understanding would be good.
I agree. I think there is some work to be done around specifically Tony's comment relating to what is public, what is private, what is commercial, what is retail. And that I'm certain will be part of any legislation that comes through this working group. A lawyerly definition. Requesting any other comments?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Anjali.
Thank you. Anjali Baines, Fresh Energy. The only other part of this specific recommendation on the excise tax at public electric vehicle charging stations, I noticed that there wasn't a lot of notes on what those of us who opposed the excise tax on public charging is included. And I just want to make sure, one of our main concerns from our perspective is that public excise tax, in addition to being the kind of triple, double tax, is the fact that unlike gasoline vehicles, not everyone has access to at-home charging. So having a public charging tax means it has an inequitable burden on those who rely on public charging, like renters, multifamily, and those who are rural drivers or driving longer distances. So I just want to make sure that concern is noted somewhere in that portion.
That's good feedback.
Thank you.
I took the note, and I'll make sure that Danny and Austin incorporate that as well.
Thank you.
All right. Well, without further ado, then I will propose a roll call vote that I, Ann Johnson Stewart, move to approve the working group's final report to the legislature, and that LCC staff, that's these guys, are authorized to prepare the report, incorporating any recommendations that we made today, and make any technical changes that are necessary. And then I will be authorized to approve and work with staff to submit the final report. So that's my motion. If anyone is opposed to me making that motion, raise your hand and you can make that motion. Otherwise, I will ask Austin to take the roll on that motion.
Chair Johnson Stewart,
Aye.
Vice Chair Elkins,
Aye.
Anjali Baines,
Aye.
Steve Berthel, Carolyn Berninger,
Aye.
Margaret Donahoe,
Aye.
Amanda Dewar,
Aye.
Justin Emmerich,
Aye.
Gary Hansen,
Aye.
Joe Hoppy, Senator Howe, Tony Quillis,
Aye.
Nick Lardno, Representative Murphy,
Aye.
Emily Murray,
Aye.
James Pearson,
Aye.
John Pollard,
Aye.
Eric Rudine,
Aye.
John Thorson,
Aye.
Aurora Vatrin, Peng Zhang,
Aye.
Laura Ziegler,
Aye.
All right, with 17 ayes, no nays, and no abstention, we will recommend that the working group report be adopted. The next item of business is a little bit funny, but we have to take a voice vote to approve the meeting minutes today. So I will so move to authorize LCC staff to prepare and for me to approve the meeting minutes from today's meeting. Do we have just a voice vote on that, right? So all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? All right, so moved. So with that, our business is concluded. However, I have a few remarks. I just, again, want to thank Austin, DeMarco, and Danny for the work they did, not just in preparing the final report, but in putting together all of the meeting documentations, arranging. Danny spent hours and hours getting speakers here and getting presentations, DeMarco as well, coordinating with presenters. Austin kept us on track and did a lot of behind the scenes work. So I am very grateful that frankly, I just showed up and have the script in front of me. So I also want to thank everybody that served on this working group. We had an enormous amount of expertise. Representative Elkins, you've done a ton of work on this, and I'm really grateful for that. Many of us, Margaret Donahoe and others, brought your connections to helping us get speakers and helping us to reach out to other states where work that we can learn from is already happening. I really appreciate all of the state and department staff that helped with us and helped us understand the implications to each one of our departments. So I feel like this was a really positive experience for me. I learned a ton about electric vehicles. Hopefully I will be able to purchase one eventually. We'll see what happens. My husband doesn't think I can be trusted with an electric vehicle. Oh my gosh, that's in the notes, but that's okay. I hope to be worthy of an electric vehicle someday.
Take that from the record.
Yeah, do not strike it. It's okay. But anyway, I learned so much about electric vehicles, also about the technology, and I'm excited to see where this takes us. So with that, I will offer up an opportunity for anybody else to make any remarks. Senator or Representative Elkins, do you have anything you want to add?
Madam Chair, I really appreciated being a part of this committee. I think you did a really good job of leading us in an even-handed manner. I think we all learned a ton, including me, and I'm grateful for having had this experience.
Excellent. Well, thanks. We'll look forward to your expertise as we move forward. Representative Murphy, do you have anything you want to add?
I'd like to thank the task force for all their work. I'd certainly like to appreciate all of the hard, putting all the information together for us. That was definitely a difficult job and summarizing it. So I appreciate everybody's input. And thank you, Madam Chair, for, I think, doing a great job of leading.
Oh, my pleasure. I know Senator Howe offered up quite a bit of expertise, and I look forward to working with him in his last legislative session. So anybody else want to offer up anything for the good of the working group?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd
Go ahead,
also really like
Representative.
to thank staff for that supported us on this. This is the second LCC committee where Austin has been right hand, and he's done an amazing job on both of those committees. And Danny, I think you've also been a tremendous help in getting us through this as well.
Yeah, staff.
And DeMarco.
Don't forget DeMarco. All right, one more time. Anybody have any input? Anjali Baines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Anjali Baines, Fresh Energy. I know I was on the opposite side of a lot of positions that this group take, but I just really appreciate the ability to have a civil discourse among everyone. I just, know that's a foundation of our democracy. So I really appreciated having folks be able to have that kind of conversation of differing opinions all together. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I know if we remember Senator Howe's words last time about how this work does take time outside of everybody's job. It takes extra time to get together, but I frankly thought it was a really good way for us to hear from all, not all, many of the parties that will be impacted by whatever legislation comes out of this. For now, we have our working group report. We know that we'll have some legislation proposed as part of it. We had 4 lawmakers that were actively involved, and I know that there's other lawmakers that will be looking at our recommendations as they work with each one of you shareholders or stakeholders to come up with proposals. So with that, I'm going to adjourn us. Oh, here we go. I will adjourn the working group meeting and again, appreciate everybody's input. Feel free to continue to let us know what you think might be appropriate as we prepare bills for the upcoming session. Thank you.